The reason that everybody's focusing on Israel is spiritual.
Yeah.
Because if Israel is important to God, then the enemy wants to destroy Israel and destroy that connection. Israel is not just at war with a small terrorist organization, Hamas.
Yeah.
Israel is at war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We're at war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is the largest terrorist organization in the world. Yeah. Israel is at war against the Houthis in Yemen. Yeah. Israel is at war against militias of Iran in Iraq and Syria, and Israel is at war against Iran itself, which is a country of more than 100 million people, so 10 times larger than Israel. So if we survive all these fronts, it's only because of God, not because of our military, not because of our wisdom or strength. It's only because God is protecting us.
Hey, welcome to the podcast today. I've got really somebody super special, really happy that you're here today, Yair. And it was amazing. I got a text message this morning of someone who had seen you in an interview with TBN here in Dallas. And after looking up on the internet, I sort of found out you were still here, and we contacted each other, and you were coming to Dallas this morning, and here we are together.
Yeah. This happened only a few hours ago, by the way. Yeah. So, let me give me a little bit of a background story of why am I here in Dallas now. Yeah. And so
Before you do that, I want to just give a little bio. Yair Pinto, you're married, and you have
Okay, so I'm married, I have 3 kids, Israeli, Jewish, born and raised in Jerusalem. Yeah. A follower of Yeshua, of Jesus, and served in the army from the age of 18 until the age of 23 as an active member of the army, for 5 years as an officer, a tank platoon commander. And then in Israel, you stay in the army until the age of, used to be 45, now it's 50 in the reserves. So I've been fighting for 4 months in this war against Hezbollah in the northern border with Lebanon, and against Hamas inside the Gaza Strip in Khan Yunis, which is not a nice area to be in. Yeah. But and I work with TBN. I'm the director of operations for TBN Israel. Yep. So I think God placed me there and here in order to share what is happening in this war in Israel, who are the enemies that want to destroy the Jewish state, and to encourage people to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're headed. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for coming. Secondly, you are an expert on what's gone on, how we got to the situation that we're in today, and what the current issues are this morning. I read this morning and woke up in the headlines of Fox News that 30 during the night, Hezbollah shot 30 rockets into northern Israel.
Yes, correct. And, rockets and drones, suicide drones and rockets. Yeah. And it made a headline because it's 30 and because it hit a big city in the north. Yeah. But to tell the truth, since October 8th, which is 10 months ago, every day Hezbollah has been firing about 10 rockets and drones into Israel, into the northern parts of Israel. Wow. So it might be, shocking when it hits the news here in the United States, but for us, this is a normal thing that we deal with on a daily basis. Wow. I've been to the northern communities that are next to the border with Lebanon just a month ago, right before I came to the United States, and it's ghost towns. We have more than 20,000 Israelis that are refugees now. Mm-hmm. They cannot live in their houses because of the daily rocket attacks from Hezbollah on civilians. Mm-hmm. And they live now in hotels, in other communities in the center of Israel for 10 months. Wow. That's the situation with the northern border with Hezbollah.
And just a week or so ago, there were a bunch of Druze children who were murdered.
Yes.
Playing soccer, playing football. And that's over towards the eastern side.
Correct. This is in the Golan Heights area, not in the Galilee. So it's more eastern. It's closer to the border with Syria, but also with Lebanon. Yeah. If you know the geography of Israel. Yeah. And that's really sad because they basically targeted a civilian area and hit a soccer field next to a kindergarten and a play area for kids, and they passed away. Yeah. All these innocent children.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yes. So,
well, look, let's go back. Let's just go back to you're a born and raised Israeli.
Yeah.
Jerusalem?
In Jerusalem,
In Jerusalem,
yes.
wow.
Yes.
And at 18, you joined the IDF. Every 18-year-old Israeli immediately goes to the IDF,
yes, men
right?
and women.
Yeah.
So we both joined the IDF at the age of 18. Men do 3 years, mandatory, and then women do 2 years. I did more than that because if you want to be an officer, then you need to sign in another close to 2 years in the IDF, and then you become an officer.
Yeah.
So the age of 18, I joined the IDF. I was in the tanks unit. So in the tank, you have a few positions. You have the gunner, you have the driver, and you have the guy who loads the cannons.
Yeah.
So just in general, the driver is usually the laziest guy because he can go to sleep when the engine is running and stuff like that. The gunner is the smartest guy because he needs to aim to deal with all the mechanics, and the guy who loads is the strongest guy because he needs to carry the shells and the missiles and everything. Yeah. So can you guess which one I was?
You're the driver.
No, hey, that's not nice. Just kidding. But I was the gunner. At the beginning, and then after the training as a gunner, I went into officer school, and then I was trained as a tank commander. At the beginning it was 1 tank, and then it evolved into 3 tanks. Yeah. So that's what I do in the IDF. That's my position. Later on, I evolved into being in the intelligence units of the tank brigade. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing in the Gaza Strip. And so 3 years, and then plus an extra 2 as a IDF reserve, normal soldier, and then you were a civilian again.
Yeah, and were those pretty quiet years you were in the Army?
So it's kind of hard to say quiet. Compared to today, yes. We didn't have an all-out war. We weren't attacked by 7 different fronts at the same time, but we still dealt with Hamas terrorists on a daily basis in Judea and Samaria. Rocket fire. Also, I would say once a week, at least 10 rockets from the Gaza Strip towards Israeli communities. Yeah. Just to give you an example of the situation that we learned and need to deal with in Israel. In my house, we have a bomb shelter. My wife trained my kids, and I trained with them, to go into the bomb shelter when we hear a siren. So there is a siren that you hear in the community, and then you have a minute and a half to go to the bomb shelter before the rocket lands. And this is in Jerusalem. Yeah. Imagine what it is in the communities surrounding the Gaza Strip. They have 5 seconds to seek a shelter. So the kindergartens in these communities are all rocket proof. Yeah. And every house in Israel has a bomb shelter that is prepared and ready. That's how you build houses. Like the contractors, they must have 1 room as a bomb shelter in Israel. Yeah. So that's kind of a background of the situation. Yeah. We always have to defend ourselves. There is always a terrorist group, enemy state that wants to attack Israel. And what happened now in the 7th of October is everything kind of sped up and became more and more intense. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. But, it sounds very sad and depressing, but I think that it's all spiritual. Yeah. Because God made a covenant to the people of Israel. And in that covenant, he said that he will bless, he will protect us. And Israel, the new state of Israel for, 70-something years that we exist now, that's a fulfillment of a prophecy of God's covenant. And the world is looking at Israel and says, okay, God was truthful to these people, and he'll be truthful to you, to me. Yeah. And that gives encouragement. It makes God's word true and come to life.
Yeah, whether they're Christians or not, or even religious or not.
For everyone.
That's right.
And the fact is that God made this covenant to Israel, not because Israelis are special or Jewish people are holy or something. Far from it. God picked the people of Israel because they are so stubborn, because they're so hard to follow his rule and his laws. And despite that, he picked them, and he is true to his covenant to them. And that's why he's true to his covenant to each and every one of us. Yeah. So the enemy hates that. And that's why Israel is constantly being attacked by all these enemy states and all these evil Islamic ideologies that want to destroy us. And that's what they want. They don't want a two-state solution. They don't want peace. They want to annihilate the Jewish people from Israel, because if there is no more Israel, then God is not faithful to his word.
Yes.
And that's what the enemy is trying, to basically separate God from the whole world.
Yeah.
And Israel is an example of that.
Yes. So the underlying promise by God is that he's going to bless the people of Israel, even though they don't deserve blessing.
Exactly.
Even though they don't deserve protection. He's going to protect the people of Israel.
Yes.
Why? Because of his promise.
And because of grace.
Yes.
I mean, God is a God of grace and of mercy. It's not like we didn't do anything to deserve this. We didn't follow the law. Most of the people of Israel do not believe in Jesus.
That's right.
Like me, as a believer in Yeshua, we are like a super small minority of 0.001% or even less than that in the entire country. I grew up as the only follower of Yeshua in my school, the only follower of Yeshua in every basketball camp or anything that I had. So it's such a minority, and despite that, God is faithful. And I believe that, when he decides, he will reveal himself to the rest of the people of Israel.
Yeah.
And that will be an amazing revival for the entire world. But that's my hope for my friends, my family, and all of my community.
Yeah.
And I think that personally, throughout these terrible times and hardships, God is giving us peace.
Yeah.
And giving us the ability to keep going, to plan for the future.
Yes.
And that's amazing. That's a miracle in itself.
Well, this gives us a moment just to talk just a little bit about your background. So were your parents believers in Yeshua too? Or?
So my mother was born into a normal Israeli, secular family.
Yeah.
So traditional, they were doing the Shabbat meals. They were praying the Kiddush over the bread and the wine, but that's a normal thing in Israel. Even seculars that don't believe in God at all, like atheists, will do that because it's part of the culture.
Cultural.
Yes. And after the army, she served also in the IDF. She went on a trip to vacation. After the army, it's a normal thing that the soldiers do. She went to Europe, and she found and met a YWAM group. Like a youth with a mission group, and then they began to share about Jesus to her. I don't think she ever knew the name Yeshua, Jesus, in her life, but she received him. She had the revelation there.
Wow.
She became a believer. She came back to Israel. Her entire family thought she was crazy because it's not normal. We are Jewish. We should not believe in Jesus. Jesus is for the Christians. It's something else. But she had a strong faith and a strong revelation. And she said, no, I am Jewish and I believe in Jesus. And he was Jewish also. And she started going to a congregation in Jerusalem. Actually, it was with Samuel's father.
Yes.
So
Samuel Smadja, his father.
So, exactly. So that's kind of how small the community in Israel is. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And then, so fast forward to that, I came to the world, and I grew up into this family. I grew up...
what about your father?
My father, he believed in Jesus.
Yeah.
He lived in Brazil all his life. And at the age of 22, he decided that as a Jewish man, he should come to Israel. So he made Aliyah and met my mother in the same church, same congregation.
So he was already a believer.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, one younger brother.
Yeah.
He's into skateboarding and has a skate school and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, so you're raised Jewish Christian or Messianic Jewish, and at 18 you joined the IDF.
Yes.
And I'm sure that during your high school years and your first years or so in IDF, was there a lot of persecution because you were a Christian?
So let me tell you my story. So, growing up as in a family of believers in Jesus, it's all good and nice, but there's a stage in life that you need to make a decision for yourself.
That's right.
Am I following Jesus because I want to, or just because my parents believe in him? And in Israel, it's even harder because following Jesus means you're against the current. You're the odd one, especially as a Jew. So at the beginning, and I think until the age of 16, I hid my faith from my fellow schoolmates. Because I was afraid. I was ashamed. And once they discovered it, because everything comes to light at the end. So they were so hurt and so disappointed in me as a friend that they didn't talk to me for at least 3 months.
Wow.
So it was very hard. I was completely the odd one in school and completely alone. But I learned a lot of things through this process. Okay, first of all, by staying faithful to God and still believing Him, He resurrected all these friendships that after a few months, after they were hurt, after we reconciled, they came back to me. But what I learned is that if you believe in Him, the worst thing you can do is be ashamed and hide the fact that you believe in Him. So I learned this lesson the hard way the first time. But going into the army when you're 18, you have a new start. It's a new place. You don't know anybody. You are taken out of your house into a military base with a bunch of other, young recruits. So this time I said, okay, I learned my lesson, God. I am going to open my Bible that has the Old Testament and the New Testament combined. This is kind of rare in Israel, in Hebrew, every night on my bed in the barracks. And I'm not going to be afraid. If people ask, I automatically tell them. So that's what I'm doing. The first night, people, and I'm saying people, I mean Orthodox Jews and the secular Jews and conservative Jews. This is the army. Everybody is combined. And after a few days, I became the guy that believes in Jesus. And I'm the only guy, most of them, if not all of them, ever saw in their life that believes in Jesus, in Yeshua.
Wow.
That's a responsibility. Okay, so I'm representing Jesus to the whole unit, and I'm most likely the only one that they will ever see. But because I wasn't ashamed, it opened so many doors to share about Him. Of course, they asked hard questions, but that gave us amazing conversation and deep conversations. And in the army, you're spending 4 hours in the middle of the night guarding on a mountain somewhere. You have all the time in the world to go deep into a topic and to discuss. So I had amazing conversations with the Orthodox members, and we based it on the Old Testament, because that's the base. So I said, okay, this is the Messiah, son of David. You should believe in Him too. It's not something foreign. He came for the Jewish people first. And all these, and God really blessed me during that time. I don't know if we have time, but I have another story about a testimony that really helped me after that. And God is really truthful. So I said that I never had another believer with me in any school system, in any basketball, and also not in the army at the beginning. So my mother had a prayer when I joined the army. And that's kind of a normal prayer for any Jewish mama. Okay, that my son will go into the army and that God will protect me and bring me back home safely. Okay, so she prayed that prayer, and then she prayed another prayer, that God will provide another believer in Yeshua to be with me, to serve with me. That might sound, not such a big prayer here when you're in America, many people believe in Jesus. But in Israel, it's like, I thought, there's no chance.
Needle in a haystack.
It's like, it's impossible. It's like winning the lottery or even more. That's what it is. But she was stubborn. She was stubborn with God. She prayed, she had red hair. She was stubborn with God. And she called me the first week in the army. So, do you have another believer with you? I said, no, mother, I do not have. I'm all alone. And I don't think it will change because we started already. These are the people that with me. I said, okay, I'll keep praying. And then she calls me again the week after. Same answer. No, I'm still alone. She calls me again the third week. And I'm walking in the middle of the night that evening. And I see someone that I didn't see for many years, but I knew him from a camp that we went to as teenagers in the country, because there are not many believers, so you go to camps together, so you know the whole community. And he was a believer, and the army is a huge place filled with regiments and battalions and platoons. And out of all these regiments, all these battalions, all these platoons, he was stationed in my regiment, in my platoon, in my room, in the bunk bed above me that was available. And we did not ask for it. We did not know that he's coming. So that's like the power of prayer.
Of your mother's prayers.
Of the power of a mother's prayer. Yeah. So first of all, I think it's super encouraging to share that God works and like God answers prayer. Wow. There's power in prayer.
And how long were you guys together like that?
So we were together for 2 years. Yeah. Then he was released and I kept going for a little longer. And I tell you, when two people are together, it's a whole different ball game than to be alone facing.
Exactly. That's why Jesus sent them out 2 by 2.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
No,
exactly. Some power, and when they're down, you're up. When you're up, they're down.
Yeah. And in the army is a very, very significant time for a man or a woman's life. 18, the first time you leave the comfort of your home. You're all alone. You have the decision to make whatever you want in the world. You can decide whatever to do. And I think that was super significant also for me to receive this friend to be with me, to understand that God is with me and he's giving me the backing I need in order to walk with him in this journey. Yeah. And I don't know if we have time, but I have like an addition to this story.
Please.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay, so just fast forward, okay? I'm out of the army. Okay, my mother has another prayer. It's also a normal Jewish mama's prayer, that God will provide a good wife for me.
Yeah.
Okay, and in addition to that is a wife that believes in Jesus, in Yeshua as well. Okay, going back to the statistics of Israel, 0.001% believers in the country in general. Yeah. Half of that women, because I want a wife, and then out of that, a bunch are older, too young, stuff like that. Just imagine, I have maybe 5 women to choose from, and most of them I knew since a very young age because we grew up in these, summer camps and stuff like that. So they are like sisters.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy prayer. It's even harder than the other prayer. Yeah. But she prayed, and I also joined into this prayer and said, God, because there's no way I can just meet somebody in the street randomly. What are the chances of her being a believer, of me not knowing her, not growing up together? So after the army, I'm searching for myself, like what to do, what job, what direction to take. So I started meeting with a mentor who taught me the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we meet at coffee shops, read the Bible, pray. And I'm sharing also this with him because it's, you're 20-something, finding a girlfriend is a big deal.
Yeah.
And one day he's telling me that his daughter has a close friend that she went to the army with, and I should give her a call and meet her. And just a little bit of a funny story. The guy that I'm meeting and reading the Bible with, he's the father of Rafi, which God sent to be in the barracks with me on the bunk bed.
Wow.
And fast forward, I give her a call. I said, let's go out on a date. It was a blind date, and you met her. She's outside here. She's also red hair, and we have 3 beautiful kids, all redhead. None of them look like me, thank God.
That's a beautiful story.
Yes.
Came full circle, huh?
Yes. So God has the big picture.
Thank God for your mother.
Amazing. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's fantastic. So you get into IDF, you go for your mandatory 3 years, and you serve as an officer, go for another 2 years. Mm-hmm. What were things like during your service, during your active military? Now, I know that all Israelis are in the army till they're 50, right?
Yeah, the officers until 50, the non-officers until they're 45. And by being in the army means that they can call us to go in, and we need to do at least 2 weeks or a month every year. Yeah, training to still, know what we're doing because stuff evolves.
Right.
So that's what I've been doing basically until now. I'm 37 years old. Mm-hmm. So every year I had about a month of either military training. So we go back, leave our jobs, leave our day-to-day lives, if it's university or anything, go on a tank for me, and train with my unit.
Yeah.
And this is our normal routine, or guarding the borders.
Yeah.
This is the situation.
Right.
but not a major war like what we've seen now in October 7th. Mm-hmm. So we can go back now into the events that led to this war.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What was the lead up till October 7th? And it was a long lead up, right? It wasn't just a few days or a month or so. There were a lot of things going on that led to October.
Yeah, so I would say that the major event that led to October 7th, because we've been having, fights and rockets with Hamas for close to 20 years. Mm-hmm. They've been firing rockets at Israeli civilians for close to 20 years. We had hostages there before. They kidnapped Israelis into the Gaza Strip before October 7th, like years before. This is ongoing. Mm-hmm. But we kind of had a ceasefire with Hamas. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was officially a ceasefire, but they kept breaking it. And they said, no, it's not us officially. It's this terror group, like a small terror group. It's not us officially, so don't launch a war against us. Okay? And nobody wanted a war. Israel did not want a war, for sure. Okay, and then fast forward, the situation on the ground in Israel, especially the political situation within the country, was very shaky. There was a lot of demonstrations.
Yeah, we were there in February, and there was a big demonstration right down by our hotel.
Correct.
Political.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Because the government there, people may or may not know, the prime minister has to build a coalition, and there are, 20, the many parties.
120 members, yes. Man. So he needs to have a majority out of all of the 120 parliament members. Yeah. So he needs at least 61 in order to have a government.
Right.
And personally, his political party had only 36. Yeah. So he needs to join forces with other parties in order to form a coalition in the government. Yeah. That's the situation in Israel. So, needless to say, it's very hard to get, a few people agreeing on the same thing and then forming a coalition and moving forward. So the country for, many years, almost 10 years, is divided in the middle, really close. The coalitions that Prime Minister Netanyahu was able to form were between 61 and 65 parliament members.
Very thin margin.
So 6 people can basically collapse the government. Yeah. So just imagine the tense and and how many people are rooting for him and for the government to fall. So that's the situation that Israel was at, and we had demonstrations on a daily basis, daily and weekly basis, to replace the government and to find an alternative. That's the situation. So a lot of diversity, a lot of people that are not supporting the government. And in the light of everything that happened internally in Israel, Hamas decided to launch an attack. And when I say an attack, I mean on October 7th, which, by the way, was a Jewish high holiday, Simchat Torah. Okay, this is the holiday that the Jewish people celebrate receiving the Bible from God. Yeah. Simchat Torah means the joy of receiving the Bible. Yeah. Okay, so on that morning, and I remember it like it was yesterday, because it kind of changed my life, and I think every Israeli's life. Mm-hmm. I'm in bed, waking up after a big holiday meal. In Israel, we like to eat a lot when we have the holidays. I wake up, and it's in the morning, and all the news report sirens. I hear sirens also in my house of rockets attacks in Jerusalem, in the southern communities, in all across basically Israel, from the south up until Jerusalem area. But I thought, okay, it's a normal thing. They launch 10, 20 rockets every few weeks. It's nothing different. But this time, something felt weird. And as the day goes by, we received more and more information about what happened. At the beginning, it's like, okay, this community was infiltrated by terrorists. More terrorists cross the border on that location and enter Israel. We see videos of tractors breaking the security fence between Israel and the Gaza Strip, and terrorists riding in on motorcycles, on pickup trucks with RPG rocket launchers, AK-47s. Yeah. And very fast, it escalates. Okay, we see live videos of terrorists inside Israeli communities murdering the Israeli civilians and filming it live on Facebook with the Israelis' phones, so that their family members will be the first one to see their loved ones being butchered. We see rape. We see acts of atrocities and torture against children, the elderly. We have 250 Israeli hostages being taken into the Gaza Strip. Mm-hmm. All of this happens in one day. Mm-hmm. All of this happens on a Saturday, Jewish high holiday morning. Mm-hmm. Just imagine, like, it's impossible to grasp. And it took Israel and me and the people of Israel a few weeks to understand the magnitude of what happened. Mm-hmm. Terrorists in the country. And the IDF, where is the IDF? It's not responding. And it took us at least 4 days to clear Israel from all these terrorists that were inside our country. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yep. And now the situation is, okay, Israel finally cleared the terrorists, but we have 250 hostages being kept in the Gaza Strip, including babies, including the elderly, including women, and including children. Yeah. Okay? This is the situation. I don't know, what would you do as a country? Right. There's nothing else to do other than to declare war in order to retrieve our hostages from the Gaza Strip and to destroy this terrorist organization that, by the way, Hamas openly states that its charter, its goal, is to destroy Israel from the river to the sea. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard this saying. Yeah. From the river to the sea. Sounds nice and catchy, but what it means is to annihilate the Jewish people from the river, from the Jordan River, where Jesus was baptized, until the Mediterranean Sea. There is no place in this statement for two countries, and there is no coexistence here. Yeah. It's a call for genocide. This is what it is.
Total annihilation.
Total annihilation. Yeah, so this is where it is. There's a war. Mm-hmm. I'm with a 3-month-old baby. You saw him now, is a year now. Yeah. But and my wife, 2 girls, and a 3-month-old baby at home. And I know now there's a war. I'm going to get a phone call pretty soon that I need to wear my uniform, leave my family, and go to defend my country. Mm-hmm. Because that's what we've been training for all these years. Yeah. And the military of Israel is based on the reserve units, on people like me that have jobs, that have career, that have a family, and they need to leave everything and go to the war. Yeah. I have a bag with boots, with a uniform, with my ranks, with a few underwear ready, and socks, and that's what I did. I picked it up, and the next day I was already on the border with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, because Israel thought, and also Hamas thought that once the war will start with the Gaza Strip, other enemies of Israel will join in. Mm-hmm. So Hezbollah will launch a huge attack at the same time. So we had to get there really fast in order to protect Israel against an invasion from Hezbollah. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that's how the situation began. Yeah. And since then, it's only escalated. Mm-hmm. The beginning, it was a war between Israel and Hamas, full-scale war, okay, against the terrorist organization that built underground tunnels for more than 20 years. Yeah. And infrastructure. I've been in the Gaza Strip after being in the north, and what you see there is just pure evil. Yeah, pure evil. The locations that we were attacked from the most, I'll let you guess. Hospitals. Yeah. Schools. Yeah. United Nations humanitarian buildings. Yeah. Mosques. These are the areas that Hamas digged underground tunnels underneath them, prepared rocket launching positions and sniper positions, stored their weapons. We found RPGs and AK-47s, machine guns and rocket launchers inside kindergartens, underneath children's beds. And it goes on and on. We found plastic AK-47s in schools. Yeah. So that they are teaching their kids how to use firearms in order to attack Israel when they grow up. This is an indoctrination of hatred against the Jewish people for generations, because Hamas is not just a terrorist organization. It is also the governing body of the Gaza Strip. So they're in charge of health. Yeah. They're in charge of education, all the school system, all the curriculum.
And they get millions and millions of dollars a year, right? From not just from Iran, but even Americans.
Yes. The Hamas and the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, their economy is heavily dependent on the United Nations aid money and other international organizations. And the majority of the money of UNRWA, which is the United Nations body that is in charge of the Palestinian refugees, they are funded, the majority of their funding used to come from the United States. Now it changed a bit because Israel found proof that UN workers are members of Hamas, and they participated in the attack and the invasion of October 7 against the Israeli communities. So everything kind of changed, but the situation always goes back to the spiritual realm, in my opinion. I mean, because it just doesn't make sense that, Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, all these huge countries would invest all their money, all their efforts, all these lives of their next generation in attacking Israel, unless there is something more. Because Israel, I don't know if the viewers here know, Israel is a tiny, tiny country the size of New Jersey. I mean, I can drive from one side to the other, and you've been there in like 3 hours, from the Dead Sea all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. From the river to the sea, that's a 3.5 hour drive, by the way. So the reason that all the eyes of the world are focusing on Israel, when the world has many other problems and many other conflicts, the reason that everybody is focusing on Israel is spiritual. Because if Israel is important to God, then the enemy wants to destroy Israel and destroy that connection.
And the world wants to see if God is real, right? If God really will do something here.
And the good part about all of this is that, God, our God, is not afraid of challenges. And he actually likes to perform miracles against all odds. You know why? Because when he performs a miracle against in the most crazy situations, nobody can say, it happened because of me. No, I mean, Israel is not just at war with a small terrorist organization, Hamas. Israel is at war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We're at war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is the largest terrorist organization in the world. Israel is at war against the Houthis in Yemen. Israel is at war against militias of Iran in Iraq and Syria. And Israel is at war against Iran itself, which is a country of more than 100 million people, so 10 times larger than Israel. So if we survive all these fronts, it's only because of God, not because of our military, not because of our wisdom or strength. Only because God is protecting us. So I think that, despite all the efforts of the enemy to destroy Israel, God is showing how great and how faithful he is, even more in hard times. And I think, look at Israel. Why should people around the world, support Israel or care? Why should Christians around the world care? And the reason is that Israel is an example of God's faithfulness. So if you look at Israel, and he's faithful to us despite being sinful, despite not following him. As I said, not many believers in Jesus in the land yet. And if he's faithful to us, despite all of that, then he'll be 10 times more faithful to you back at home, to each of us, in every situation. So no matter how hard you have it on your day-to-day basis, God has your back, and he can turn everything around so fast.
I want to ask you a couple of questions, but they're questions that I have heard people ask, and nobody seems to have a coherent answer for them.
Okay, I'll try to have the answer.
The first question is, how could the military, the government of Israel, miss the October 7 attack? How could they miss it? We believe Israel to have some of the finest intelligence in the world, and
we proved it just recently with the assassinations in Tehran and in Lebanon. According to foreign reports.
So how did we not know? I'm not just asking for myself, but others have asked the same question.
First of all, that's the $1 million question, and the archives will be cleared for publication in 50 years from now, because that's what happened with the Yom Kippur War, which was also like an intelligence heavy mistake that happened back then, and we weren't prepared for this attack. It seems like it's kind of similar, but I'll tell you my 2 cents on it. So Israel thought that Hamas in the Gaza Strip was deterred because every 2 years we had a big operation against them. We destroyed a lot of infrastructure. We carried multiple airstrikes. And the feeling was that Hamas is afraid of Israel, is that they do not have the ability to do a large operation and to launch a large attack. So we felt secure and confident. And the IDF focused on operations in Judea and Samaria to root out Iranian elements that tried to grow terror cells in Judea and Samaria, which is also called, the West Bank, which is in the heart of Israel.
Right.
Okay? So the focus was elsewhere. We also looked towards Hezbollah in Lebanon and other places. But we didn't think that Hamas was capable, despite seeing all the signals. Because looking backwards, you see that they were preparing for this. They were digging. They were scouting. They were doing exercises and drills in the Gaza Strip of how and where to launch attacks against Israel. So it was a big miss on the IDF's intelligence part. And I know that the blame goes very high. Many people missed and didn't do their jobs. But there is no time to look for blame.
Can't go backwards.
While you're under attack from
right.
7 countries at the same time, 7 fronts, and we need to unite. And what happened to us really fast because of this war is the whole country united. After being completely separated to the brink of a civil war even.
All the political uprising.
Definitely. So we really united. There's nothing that unites Israelis more than a threat of annihilation, sadly. But we really united, left wing, right wing, all were in uniform, fighting together, whatever is needed. The families back at home with the children giving us support, even though I will have to say that the wives with the children, they're the true heroes of this war.
Sure.
Because, for me to go fighting in the Gaza Strip against Hamas for 4 months is a piece of cake compared to my wife staying at home with 3 kids without a school system, without education, without something that they do, while being attacked by rockets, while being alone and prepared for maybe another invasion, another terrorist attack. That's the feeling.
So we're really not going to know for a while, if ever really.
That's the truth.
And the truth is, enough talking about that. We got a problem right now we need to deal with.
Exactly. There's no time to deal in what happened. We need to face these enemies that are still very strong and forming a coalition against us. Okay, so at the moment, we are at this situation. The IDF launched an attack and destroyed and annihilated the chief of staff of Hezbollah, the organization in Lebanon. No, that's in Lebanon. The chief of staff of Hezbollah. Okay, so that's a huge general. 2 hours later, the Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, was annihilated in Tehran. Yes. In his bed, in the most secure heart of Tehran. And it was a crazy James Bond movie style assassination with a bomb underneath his bed. And
that had been there for 2 months.
Exactly. It was
amazing.
The Israeli Mossad found collaborators within the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and this is according to the information that we received at the moment from foreign media sources, because Israel is still not claiming responsibility for that assassination. But it proves to everybody that Israel can reach these terrorists everywhere they are in the world. And since that, Iran was humiliated and vowed a harsh response against Israel. Okay, harsher than the response that they launched around 300 rockets, ballistic missiles, and drones at us in April. So they said something worse is coming. And this was happening about seven days ago. So every day since then, the state of Israel, the people of Israel, on our standby. That's kind of why I'm here also, because my flight got canceled to go back home. So now the only airliners that fly are Israeli airliners. So they're all packed. So I'm here a bit longer. So I think God is using maybe this situation for me also to be here with you to share the story from America
and
also.
I'm so grateful for that. Second question, the first question was what happened to the intelligence. The second question that I hear a lot, even now, we drive on our big highways and you'll come under an overpass with Palestinians on the overpass, waving the Palestinian flag, Free Palestine.
Wow.
And so this is going on in Dallas, Texas right now, other cities across the country. And it seems as though they have taken the argument that Israel has made towards them and turned it around and said, no, Israel is the one doing the genocide. Israel's the one who's been unfair. Israel's the one that attacked us. How do you ever straighten that dialogue out? How do you?
Well, it's hard. It's hard. And I keep telling like everybody and everywhere that I go to talk about this, that Israel is at a war that is fought on multiple fronts. Okay, so we're fighting the physical front, and we're winning with the help of the Allies and the United States. We are winning the physical front. We still exist. We have a strong army. But there is another war, and that's the war for the public's opinion, the war for the truth. Okay, and we are losing that war so bad because the enemy is able to flip everything around. I mean, we were attacked. We had a ceasefire with Hamas. We had a ceasefire before October 7th. They crossed the border, attacked, murdered, raped, killed, burnt our communities, the civilians of Israel, and took hostages into the Gaza Strip. They did that. We are responding. The whole reason we are fighting is to get our hostages back home that are still there for 10 months in a tunnel somewhere.
How many are left there? How many hostages?
So there are 131 hostages that are still there. Sadly, we can clearly say that the majority of them are not alive. So it's just bodies. But out of that, even one person needs to be returned to our family. Israel has to fight. I mean, wouldn't you want the United States to fight for you?
And that's the point. I mean, the United States will never settle for this.
Never.
We would do worse than what the Israelis are doing.
Yes, and in proportion. Okay, let's talk about the worst terror attack that happened to the United States.
9/11.
9/11. 9/11, you had around, 3,000 casualties or something like that in the population of around 200 million in America. So compare that to 1,200 or 1,400 Israeli casualties in one day at a population of less than 10 million. That's almost 30 times the magnitude of October 11 on a small country as Israel. Everyone knows somebody that either was wounded, killed, or is hostage in the Gaza Strip, and that includes me. I mean, everybody knows because the population is so small and the country is so young. So this is the effect. And on a personal level, I joined the army, and at the beginning, I was shocked because I was on the front lines in the north and in the Gaza Strip, and I saw who we are fighting. I saw this evil Hamas that is training the next generation to hate us, to dehumanize, I don't know, turn the Jewish people into monsters and not humans so that it will be easy to kill us. That's the doctrine that they were teaching their children. And the world was with us, the media of the world was with us maybe for a few days, maybe a week. Then everything flipped around. And anti-Semitism started rising up. And anti-Israel, anti-Zionism. And then it became even more weird, where liberal organizations, human rights organizations are uniting together with terrorist organizations.
The UN.
Yes. Against Israel. You had people that are for women's rights, for gay rights and stuff like that, uniting with Hamas, a terrorist organization that does not allow women to walk in their streets, does not allow women to vote, does not allow a gay person to live, to exist. They execute. So that did not make any sense, and it still didn't. So first of all, the only way that I could cope with this is to think that this is a spiritual warfare.
That's right.
And the enemy is using lies and deceit in order to trick people, in order to win hearts, in order to separate, people from the truth and from God, because God is the God of truth. So that's the only way that it made any sense to me.
Yeah.
And that's an attack of the enemy on the West, on the Western society.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens when you don't decide. People need to make a decision.
Yeah.
Either you stand with the truth or you stand against it. If you are quiet, then the enemy will find that loophole and sneak in.
Yeah.
So I'm not telling, you guys back at home, believe me, trust me, because I've been there. What I'm saying is read the facts, understand what's happening, and pray. Pray for the situation and let the Holy Spirit guide you to what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Because this is first and foremost, this is a spiritual war.
Yes.
And personally, what I've been doing since I realized that while in the army, I took out my phone, started doing daily updates from the front lines, sharing my feelings, sharing the feeling that my family is back at home and I'm here fighting and I miss them and I want to go home and I don't want to fight. I don't want this war, but we need to get our hostages back. We need to protect our country so there'll be future for our children.
Sure. If those hostages were our daughters, if they were our wives, if they were our brothers, our sisters, we'd fight to the end.
Yeah, just so you know, there are 2 American citizens
still there
in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
2 American citizens kept as hostages in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
So it's not just Israelis.
Yeah.
And Hamas doesn't care if he's American citizen, if he's Israeli, if he's a citizen or not. At the beginning, they had also Filipinos inside the Gaza Strip. So this is an enemy that just wants to destroy us, and all the means are kosher.
Yeah.
And sadly, because the enemy and the voices of deception and of lies are speaking out strongly, the narrative is changing.
Are Israelis satisfied with the Americans' response to the threat from Iran? Are they sad? I read in the paper that we've moved now part of the Pacific Fleet into the Med.
Yes.
And that's got to raise the hair on your enemy's neck, right?
For sure. And I think that's the big reason that Iran didn't attack already.
Yeah.
Is first of all, because of all this military presence, that they know that if they attack,
it's a hammer.
The response will be very severe.
Yeah.
And this time, it won't be just a military installation. It will be all refineries. It will be port cities. It will be water installations, dams. It will take the Iranian economy back almost to the Stone Ages.
Yeah.
So they're thinking twice if they should attack or not. And a lot of it, a huge majority of it, is the American support of Israel, definitely.
Yeah.
Israel is a tiny country. We cannot fight this war alone.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this as a tank commander.
Yeah.
We do not have the parts, the tank parts and the airplanes and all the bombs, the bullets. We need America, our ally, our biggest ally in the world.
Yeah.
We can't do this without you. And now we see the support that the Americans moved airplane carriers, so huge naval vessels that have amazing planes on them with the ability to strike Iran and also to intercept missiles that will be launched against us.
Yeah. So
that's really encouraging to see that America is stepping in and supports us, and they have been since the beginning of this war at certain levels.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're with us, but then there is pressure of the international community, of people pressuring Israel to agree to a ceasefire without our hostages being returned home, or without Hamas being dismantled.
Yeah.
So that was like a serious area that we had pressure from America, from the international community, to stop fighting without any results, and without bringing our people back home. So that was very hard. And they also leveraged that support, the military support, on ceasing the operations or changing or postponing them. So there were hard times in the relationship, but I guess that's part of relationships.
Sure.
And there are internal powers that move inside America that also affect that. But for many, many years, the U.S. support for Israel the reason that we are still here, and the reason that the IDF is very strong.
And I'm thankful that a majority of Americans are still very supportive of Israel.
Yeah.
There's another question that I've always wanted an answer to. I don't really understand is why the Jewish population of America, so many of them are anti-Israel, or they're pro-Palestinian. How does that work?
Yeah, listen, that's also a question that is very hard for me to grasp, because if you're Jewish and you live outside of Israel, I mean, that's the only Jewish state in the world.
Right.
And we've seen history and how the world treats Jewish people outside of Israel.
Yeah.
The only reason and the only difference between the times of the Holocaust and now is the fact that this time we have Israel as a state, our own state. We have the IDF as our own military and army that can defend ourselves. Mm-hmm. And this army, this state, is defending Jewish people all over the world. And these protests and these flags that are lifted in major cities, in Dallas, mm-hmm. in London, in other places around the world, that's the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it starts with peaceful protests, and very fast it escalates, mm-hmm. and it becomes a spiral into anti-Semitism. And first, the Jews are targeted.
Yeah.
And then it spreads to the Christians, mm-hmm. and to all the Western values.
Right.
Because this enemy that we're fighting, it doesn't want to finish only Israel. The plans of Iran and all of the extreme Islamic ideology is to spread to the West, to Europe, to the United States. The Ayatollah regime, which are leading Iran, their statement is, Israel is the small Satan and the United States are the big Satan.
Yeah.
So that's the enemy. They burn American flags alongside Israeli flags.
And it's amazing they have a multi-pronged strategy. I mean, there are more mosques now in the U.S. than ever. Mm-hmm. There are more immigrant families that are moving here. And, of course, their mantra is have as many children as you can for the armies of Allah. Mm-hmm. And it's a difficult situation because we have beside them, lovely Muslim people that work hard and love America, and mm-hmm. so it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely. It's very difficult, and I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I can tell our viewers and everybody is that God is in control in every situation. And I felt his peace in the darkest place on earth, in the Gaza Strip, in Khan Yunis. When I was called to go inside, my brigadier general called me. I was in the car. He said, I want you to come and be next to me in my tank in Khan Yunis, in the heart of the Gaza Strip. My first thoughts was, whoa, how do I tell my wife? That's the first thing. And then I stopped the car on the side and just prayed. Yeah. Said, God, if this is from you, please give me peace. Yeah. And I know you're in control. And it was scary to go inside. But the moment I stepped in, somehow I felt God's peace.
Peace of God.
And he used me to share with all the other soldiers in the Gaza Strip that millions of Christians around the world are praying for them, praying for the peace of Jerusalem, praying for Israel to win in this war, and that they're not alone. Because what they felt by looking at the media and seeing all these protests is that we were attacked by these monsters and nobody cares, and we're alone fighting this evil. Mm. But that's not true. There are millions of people around the world that support Israel and pray for us on a daily basis.
Yeah. So
that's, I think, very important to know that God is with us and he can give you peace in whatever situation you're at.
Yeah. Amen. And I think that's not the least we can do, it's the greatest thing we can do.
Yeah.
If we'll consistently pray for Israel, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray.
Yeah, and combine that with my testimony in the beginning.
Yeah.
Prayer works.
Amen.
Okay, I really believe in the power of prayer.
Amen. The last thing I want to talk to you about is you were injured in combat.
Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell us that story.
So, well, the IDF is being in combat is not easy on your body and everything. Right. And I'm not as young as I used to be. So being in the army, you sleep either on the floor, in certain made-up beds and stuff like that, and you need to carry with you all the time bulletproof vests that are very heavy, and wear helmets all the time, and stay in difficult conditions while being under stress, deprived of sleep, under fire, getting into and out from tanks and other military vehicles. So I would say about 2 weeks before my unit completed its mission in the Gaza Strip, I was on my way back into the Hummers and into the Gaza Strip, and I just went down and got up, and I heard my knee popping. Wow. So it was I couldn't walk anymore. So I was able to drive myself from the border with Gaza to a hospital, and I tore my meniscus. Fast forward 4 months later, after identifying and trying to understand what was the problem, I had a surgery last month, and now I'm still recovering.
Yeah.
And my injury is very light because people don't talk about it, but we have more than 10,000 Israeli soldiers, some reserves, some are just 18, 19-year-old that are crippled.
Yeah.
They don't have an arm, they don't have a leg, maybe don't have 2 legs because of this war. So there is a heavy price that Israel is paying to defend ourselves and to defend, I think, the world from this evil that wants to spread.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll pray for your quick and
Thank you.
Healthy total recovery.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to just take this last few minutes and just give you a moment just to appeal to all of our listeners. Mm-hmm. And just, if you were with us, I mean, I'm sure that this will be seen by several thousand people. Mm-hmm. If you were with that group of people now, how would you end this moment? What would you encourage them to do? And how can we make a difference?
Okay, so I think that, first of all, just by listening to me and understanding what's happening in Israel and wanting to know the truth, you're already making a difference. So one thing is to understand the situation, okay? Second thing is to share the truth. Share what is happening with your neighbor, with your friend, because the fact that it's in Israel, far away, it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you, your life. And we need to act now. And how do we act in this situation? Okay, so I said that this is a war between spirits. This is a spiritual war. And how do you fight a spiritual war? You pray. So alongside knowing what is happening, I would ask you to pray. Take time and ask God, how should I pray for Israel? Maybe pick a hostage, one hostage, and pray for him. Pray that as he's in a tunnel somewhere in the Gaza Strip, that God will reveal himself to him and comfort him. Pray for the families of those that passed away, that were lost because of this war. And most importantly, I think, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Okay? That's the biggest thing that we can do, that you can do, and it really helps. We feel it.
Yeah.
We feel it. And the fact that Israel is optimistic and we're thinking ahead, and we send our kids to school. I mean, next week, 2 weeks, school starts in Israel. And we are planning for that. I'm taking my girls to shop for pencils and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's not normal because we're under constant threats of attack, of annihilation. Yeah. That's only because of the peace of God that he has on Israel, on me personally. And that's because of the prayer warriors that are gathering around the world to unite in prayer for us.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like to stay connected to you. We'd like to find out how you and your family weather this situation. And perhaps in a month, 6 weeks, 2 months from now, we could do something by Zoom.
I'll be happy to.
Yeah, and just find out how things have progressed for you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining us. And I'm so grateful this worked out. Before this morning, I'd never heard your name. And now here we are together.
Yes.
That's a God thing.
Yes,
and
definitely.
I'm so grateful for that. I want to just take a moment and just thank all of you for listening today. Hey, you heard, number one, understand what's going on. Number two, pray. Share the truth with your friends. And then finally, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yes.
And we'll stand with you in that, Yair, you and Anna and your precious children.
Thank you so much.
Hey, God bless you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
God bless all of you.